allow Kenya to design and produce high-quality weapons customized to our unique needs and operating environments.
The head of state noting that through this local manufacturing, the country had managed to save billions of shillings through the elimination of middlemen, with 60% of materials used in making the arms being locally assembled.
But by using our own local expertise, our own Kenyan citizens, we have been able to complete this project at a cost of Kenya shillings 4 billion, saving us a combined total of approximately 11 billion shillings.
And we actually concluded that the budget we spent, or the budget that was spent earlier to buy some of that equipment, would have bought twice the number that we finally ended up with. Because that middlemanism has got a long line of rent seekers and briefcase carriers and all these quangles who interfere with our country.
The head of state has further lauded the technology that had been input towards the production of the small arms, saying it had provided employment opportunities to the youth as it is aligned to one of the Big Four agenda on manufacturing.
Aiming to be a nation of highly skilled, highly trained young men and women with a government and a nation that is capable of producing the kind of jobs that can give you the kind of returns that will, at the end of the day, justify the education that you have undergone.
In the next 5 years, the government intends to have the capacity to supply all Kenyan security agencies personal weapons as well as develop capacity to produce light weapons.
At current production and demand levels, the factory is already self-sustaining. And over the next year, we intend to diversify our production lines to include 9mm pistols and 7.62 assault rifles.
Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Now, police have launched investigations into the death of a Kenya Broadcasting Corporation employee shot dead by thugs last evening. Betty Barasa, a senior video editor at KBC, was shot dead inside her family home in Ololua, Ngong, shortly after returning home from work. Now, the gang of three is reported to have accosted Betty at the gate before leading her into the house where the unfortunate incident happened.
Betty Baraza was coming home last night from her workplace at the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, and as she waited for the gate to be opened, three thugs emerged from this construction site next to her homestead. The thugs all forced their way into the house and held them at gunpoint before demanding for money.
I told them I don't have money. I've had quite a number of challenges. It's a very challenging period. They said, no, we need money. I told them I don't have money. They said, now what can you give us? I don't know what you want to take, but spare our lives. Kindly spare our lives.
One of the gang members remained downstairs to keep watch on the distraught family, while two of them proceeded upstairs with the victim, presumably in search for valuables. What happened upstairs for a period of about 9 minutes remained unclear, and what followed were two gunshots.
He told me to lift my left hand. I lifted. He picked the ring. That's the time I had 2 bullets. And then the gentleman said, "Na nimemalisa." And then they pulled me to the kitchen and pushed me back. They said, if you scream, we shall come and finish the whole family. So they pushed me back, like enough I didn't fall.
Mmoja akasema amekuwa anafanya sikusikia word vizuri, like amekuwa anafanya something na mlango nikalipua. Wewe mwingine akasema sawa.
Rushed upstairs to check what has happened to my dear wife and to confirm that he's dead and profusely bleeding. He got 2 bullets in the head.
Confirming the incident, Kajiado North Sub-County Police Commander Rashid Muhammad says they have launched investigations into the matter.
A team of investigators are still on the ground as I speak to you from the DCI team, led by the DCI and others. And therefore, we are optimistic that we shall catch up with them sooner or later.
Sasa senior editor wa KBC wa serikali Betty Barasa kuuawa kiunyama mbele ya familia yake. Akiingia kwake nyumbani, lazima DCI watupatie matokeo ya investigation within 2 weeks.
The Media Council of Kenya joined the media fraternity in mourning the death of someone seen as a mentor to many. KBC Managing Director Naim Bilal, on behalf of the board and the management, eulogized Betty as a diligent worker who related well with colleagues. He condoled with the family of the deceased, saying the corporation stands with them during this difficult period. The family now lays in wait for answers from investigations on an incident that has left a permanent scar in their lives. It's a tragic incident that has left 3 children motherless and a husband without a wife. The family now left with questions as to what could have been the motive behind such a gruesome act. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
Never in my wildest dreams had I thought that I would have to read such a bulletin of a colleague who we shared a space with less than 24 hours ago. And now we are reporting that she was murdered. May your soul continue resting in peace, Betty. And now at her local home in Sanandiki village, a Chwala location in Bungoma County, close relatives of the late KBC editor Betty Namtehele called on the government to leave no stone unturned and bring to book her killers. Addressing the press from Sanandiki within Chwala, the late Betty's mother, Judith Mtehele, said she was shocked to see her eldest son arrive in the morning, only to deliver the sad news.
Awe akaniambia ati yeye alitoka kazi na gari, akafika kwa kiti, akaingia ndani ya nyumba, na watoto ndio walikuja wakafungua kiti, na yeye akaingia. Mzee yake pia alikuwa ndio aliingia, wakauliza na hao majambazi walikuwa wamemfamia kwa njia. Saa zingine serikali ikifuatilia inaweza wapata, alafu wapate wajulikane, ndio wanajua chenye walifanya mtoto yangu.
My prayer and the family to the government is to look for these criminals and bring them to justice so that the family can get justice for the death of our daughter and our sister.
We continue to mourn the death of a colleague and a friend, a mom, a joyful person, very joyful, very open to help those who find themselves in a difficult situation. And I reiterate what the family and friends have been saying in the last 12 hours, that we implore the authorities to bring the perpetrators of this heinous act to book. She will be missed, and she was loved. Now, people living with HIV and AIDS have urged the government to fast-track the release of antiretroviral drugs to comprehensive care center throughout the country. Now, their call follows a standoff between the government and the American donor agency, USAID, over tax which had placed their lives at stake following fears of a shortage of the life-saving drugs. The standoff has since been resolved.
Meet Sarah Mwangi, a resident of Nakuru County, who has lived with HIV and AIDS for the last 23 years. For the last 2 decades, she has been getting antiretroviral drugs from Comprehensive Care Center in Nakuru. But the recent standoff between the government and the American donor agency USAID over tax has resulted in reduced stocks across all comprehensive care centers in the country, causing panic to Sarah and other patients living with HIV and AIDS.
It is worth to know that ARVs have helped many people to stay normal lives, get children, and even run their jobs as normal. They are also voters. We vote for the government, and we are also manpower in the government that we are serving. For example, I'm a teacher, I'm a high school teacher, and I go to work. I'm a mother, I have a child who depends on me.
The dispute saw ARV drugs worth 2.1 billion shillings held at Port of Mombasa, threatening the lives of those infected. Kenya had accused USAID of using private companies to import the drugs, thus flouting regulations on tax waiver on government-to-government donations.
Then at other times, people borrow from each other. Like if I don't have enough, I'll go to a neighbor and tell them my drugs are over. But we don't know whether when we go to the clinic, we'll have them. You see that fear and anxiety that is coming up. So we are going through a tough time, to be sincere. There are cases that I saw where someone has exhausted their refill, they don't have money to go to the CCC, and the person is using drugs that are not in their regimen, which is very dangerous. When you take drugs that are not supposed to suppress the strain that you have, it's very dangerous.
Last Tuesday, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe said the standoff had been resolved and the drugs were headed to all care centers. But the Council of Governors yesterday raised alarm over lack of ARVs for children in all hospitals across the country.
Component of this regimen called Kaletra is missing in totality in the country. This means that children are not accessing the full range of ARVs. This will lead to treatment failure among the children.
But as the two levels of government read from different scripts, patients like Sarah remain at risk of getting other diseases. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
A somber mood has engulfed Kabati area in Kandara constituency of Murang'a County following the mysterious death of a middle-aged man. The lifeless body of Kenyo Masharia was found buried using cow dung few meters from his house after his wife said she could not reach him through his mobile phone.
Kabati area in Kandara constituency of Murang'a County. Shock and grief on the faces of residents following the mysterious death of 56-year-old Kenyo Masharia, whose lifeless body was found buried in a shallow grave using cow dung within his homestead.
Nilikuwa naangalia huko wote, nikakuja nikaona hii mzibi hapa, nikaambia kijana kuja waangalie kama ndio huyu. Kijana akakuja akafanya hivyo, akaniambia ndio huyu. Sasa nikamwambia, nikapiga nduru na nikaanguka hapo. Sasa nikamwambia pigia sister yangu arudi ndio akuja aone ile huko, kuja akuweza kukuja hapa. Akapiga nduru hata akaanguka.
The family still puzzled over the motive of the unfortunate turn of events, saying that Masharia made a sale of one of his cows a day before he met his untimely death.
Walikuwa wameuza ng'ombe. Sijui kama hizo pesa ndizo zilimfanya amuue ama nini. Sasa yenye nimekuja nikaambiwa simu ya Nko nimepatikana huko kwa kijana, nyumba yenye kijana alikuwa analala. Ilikuwa hapo juu ya meza. Hajatoa kitu, zote pesa ziko, kila kitu iko.
The sudden disappearance of a worker at the homestead also raising more questions than answers.
Kama kumtabua tunamjua kumuona, lakini tusamuona sana, lakini ni vile huwezi elezea kwao. Mtu mwenye amenyamaza, kwa hivyo hata hii kitendo tunasidwa imekuwa imetendeka na njia gani.
Nataka kuomba tu wananchi, kila wakati tunapotafuta watu wa ajira, tutafute watu tunaowajua vizuri, tutafute watu tunaowafahamu vizuri, tutafute watu ambao tunajua hata tukimkosa siku ya leo ni wapi tunaweza mtoa.
The body of the deceased was taken to General Cargo Funeral Home in Thika, with Kandara OCPD Catherine Ringera affirming that investigations into the incident have commenced. Police officers who visited the scene said that preliminary investigations reveal that Kenyo Masharia was hit with a blunt object at the back of his head. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Aching Ouma.
Unfortunately, life that was previously referred to as priceless, it has a tag, and many are willing to pay. Now, the government has directed secondary school heads to guide this year's Kenya Certificate of Secondary School Education candidates and choosing preferred courses before July this year. Now, Principal Secretary for University Education and Research, Ambassador Simon Nabukwasi, noted that the candidates are often misguided in selecting courses and universities, then end up settling for careers they do have no passion about.
This year's KCSE candidates have until July to choose courses of their preference, as well as universities and colleges where they want to pursue the courses. While presiding over the opening and subsequent distribution of exam material in Kisumu, Principal Secretary for University Education and Research in the Ministry of Education, Ambassador Simon Nabukwasi, decried perennial misguidance of candidates in selecting preferred courses and colleges.
We have 78 universities. I want to encourage students to choose careers, not universities.
He called upon secondary school heads to guide the exercise before July this year.
The heads of schools to ensure that candidates make career choices so that they choose careers based on their gifts from God, on the talents they have, and on their capacity to manage and do well, especially at the point of serving this nation.
At the same time, the PS noted that the ongoing KCSE examination has been executed without hitches, but warned against complacency on the side of exam administrators.
In ensuring that the exam is run fairly, we observe rules and regulations, and we get results that students merit to have.
He called upon exam center managers to go out of their way to protect the integrity of the examination. Meanwhile, Basic Education PS Julius Juan has reiterated Ministry of Education position that action will be taken against those found circulating fake examination papers. The PS says the government is well prepared in the event some areas experience floods, as the examination must go on.
Then we have choppers placed in the area, the region around Tana River, in northeastern and the whole country, so that in any case, if there's a situation that requires us to use a chopper, we'll do that. And as I told you, it's a multi-agency approach, and the whole government is involved. That's why we have not had any major issues in relation to the rain.
Wycliffe Okech for Channel 1 News.
At least 26 adults candidates from Kajiado County registered to sit for the ongoing Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education have failed to turn up for the examination, citing inevitable challenges. Of the total 264 adulthood and continuing education KCSE candidates, only 238 have sat for the exams. One of the candidates is reported to have died just a few days into the examination.
According to the County Adult and Continuing Education Coordinator Martin Jiriri, majority of men who are from rural areas cited fear of contracting COVID-19 in the urban-based examination centers and tough economic times brought about by the pandemic.
Wengi waliohofia kupatwa ni COVID, na wengine pia kuna wale pia walipatwa na kupitia hiyo wakafanya wale wengine waweze kuogopa kuja kufanya mtihani.
Jiriri stated that some candidates attributed financial constraints to being unable to facilitate expenses of reaching exam centers.
Wanafunzi 26 19 wakiwa wanaume na 7 wakiwa wanawake ndio wamekosa kufika kuja kufanya mtihani, kwa sababu kwanza wengine walikuwa wanatoka mbali na kuwa pia kuna lockdown ambayo walifungiwa, angeweza kusafiri kufika kwa center zetu ambazo ni 7 katika Kajiado County yetu, na mwingine unakuta amefungiwa na pale amefungiwa si pale amerejestia hii mtihani. So unakuta ule amefungiwa na anashindwa kufika.
Jiriri added that the initiative of a multi-agency security and administration officers had facilitated some women to enable them to sit for their exams.
Kuna kisa kimoja ambaye mama amezuiwa kuja kufanya mtihani asubuhi, tukaingililia na principal wa shule na kupitia ofisi ya chief na supervisor of the center na akaweza kufika kufanya mtihani.
Jiriri says there is need for creating awareness on the importance of education among illiterate adults to ensure more adults enroll in adulthood education.
1,698 people have tested positive for COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, bringing the cumulative total to 143,063 cases. The figure translates to a positivity rate of 14.9%. The same period, 456 patients have recovered. 267 from home-based care, while 198 are from various health facilities. The number brings the total recoveries to 97,650. So far, some 363 people have been vaccinated. According to the statistics from the Ministry of Health, 16 patients have, however, succumbed to the disease today, bringing the country's death toll to 2,292. Remember to keep safe there, mask properly, sanitize and thoroughly wash your hands using soap. Now, the Joint Committee of Parliament on the Building Bridges Initiative says its report on the Constitution Amendment will be tabled next month when the House resumes from recess. The committee that is yet to complete its report says the committee of experts is still giving guidance on key clauses on the bill. The new development now throws into disarray alleged claims that Parliament would host a special sitting next week to debate on the bill.
The Joint Committee on BBI now says debate on its report will be conducted upon resumption of the House from recess in May. The committee that is yet to complete its report says it has the assurance of the Speaker that there won't be any special sitting next week.
We have consulted both the speakers of Parliament and they have assured us that there will be no special parliamentary meeting for BBI. Special meetings may be called for other matters, but not BBI. BBI is given time, as I say, timelines on 4th May and 11th May.
The committee says it will meet with the constitutional experts before the end of this month to finalize on its report.
We are on course. And because of the interruptions by COVID, we have given this exercise a full 5 days from 19th through 5 days to be able to wrap up the report and give a report that can stand the test of time.
Sentiments echoed by Speaker Justin Muturi, who says Parliament will hold sittings once the BBI report is ready. Meanwhile, the National Assembly Committee on Education retreats to write its report on the suitability of Jamlek Muturi and Timon Oyucho, nominees to the Teacher Service Commission, in their position of chair and member of the commission respectively. During the vetting, members of Parliament sought to gauge their knowledge and understanding on matters of the mandate of the TSC and whether the nominees met the requirements of Section 6, subsection 2B of the Teacher Service Commission Act, which provides that members of the commission shall have knowledge and experience of at least 10 years in matters relating to education, governance and management or law.
What vision and what do you think and what measures do you think should be put in place to create a teaching profession that is attractive going forward as a country and a teaching profession that is globally competitive?
Teacher one common calendar we are supposed to be promoted this month. Then giving the oversight role to the Secretariat is follow up and know the teachers who have reached promotion being promoted on time. That will not give a room of people following by themselves why I was left when the others have been promoted. If that prompt service delivery efficiently and effectively, we will eventually reduce the element of corruption. The other thing.
For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
As we take a short break, CK Korir there, Shelley Hadija Abdirahman bin Ibrahim and Samson Nandala, who are still watching KBC Channel 1. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back with more of the stories that have been making headlines.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickbit ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitazama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka kwenye Quickbit ni bila bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini. How you doing this afternoon? Fine. How are you? I'm doing good. Even when I'm doing bad, I'm doing good. How about my little something bad?
Do you have any idea what it's like picking up the man who calls himself your father at the police station? Hi.
Ladies, do you want to be quick with me? Who is this friend you've been spending all this time with? Hey, Curtis, been doing something cars. I guess I just tend to talk. To me? To give you some of that magical happiness that you always seem to have. Feel sorry for him? No, I feel sorry for you. Oh, yeah!
Next on.
Kuna tabia nyingi sana za kusalimiana, kuwa mkuana. Umekuwaje lakini? Ana wewe ni nini bana? Nini bana? Msemaje na mse? Mse anataka barabarani alafu unaniuliza nini mbaya? Ungenigonga nianguke. Ningeanguka tukuokote. Nini mbaya? Sasa msikiti raha tu ya mkono. Ndio mkono ni soft. Kaa pampa. Ina nini Regina? Sana nzoa. Salamu gani hizi za fujo? Ni salamu hapa ni kututandika makofi na kutandika wewe. Ni salamu. Kusalimiana kwa aina hiyo ni ungwana kweli.
Good evening. If you're tuning in, this is Business Insight on KBC Channel 1. I'm Regina. Manyara, and my sign language interpreter is none other than Madam Lucy Maura there. Now, focusing on matters business, did you know that your employer is now liable to pay you 1 million shillings as a fine for wrongfully withholding or deducting your salary? Well, this is according to the new Employment Amendment Act 2019 that raised the penalty from 100,000 shillings, with the law also setting gratuity pay for duration termination of a contract at not less than 15 days per year.
The new Employment Amendment Act of 2019 amended the Employment Act of 2007 in measures aimed at introducing fairly progressive labor practices in line with the current global trends. Among other major amendments, the new law stipulates that an employer who wrongfully withholds or deducts workers' salary is liable to be fined up to 1 million shillings, the figure having been revised upward from 100,000 shillings that was previously the threshold.
In any event whereby an employer
unlawfully and without just reason withholds an employee's salary, then they will be penalized upon being reported even to the labor offices to a fine of up to 1 million Kenya shillings.
The amendment law also delegalizes non-compete laws, which are in the same instances termed as restrictive covenants. This will give employers the right to work for any other company or venture into businesses with similar undertaking with their previous employer. An employee who resigns or whose contracts come to an end is only mandated to guard information regarding the previous employer for only a reasonable period. The new law also states that in case of a transfer, merger or sale of a business, the deal should not automatically lead to the loss of employment or redundancy. It further states that an employee's right will continue existing after the death of an employer, and the personal representative of the deceased employer will have the responsibility of exercising it.
Employee's rights subsist even after the death of an employer, meaning that in the unfortunate event of an employer's death, then someone who in law is called as a personal representative will be responsible to exercise those rights that are affiliated to the employee.
A redundancy situation will, however, arise where a business ceases to exist. The new act also introduces a 1-month maternity leave in case of a stillbirth. To further enhance safety in workplace, employers with 5 staff members are required to have a sexual harassment policy. Previously, the threshold for a sexual harassment policy was for organizations with at least 20 employees.
Provided an employer has more than 5 staff members, then they ought to have a sexual harassment policy in place.
Sick leave will be at a maximum of 30 days with full pay and 15 days on half pay for all employees in a year, and not only staff who have worked for more than 2 months. During dismissal, an employer must provide an employee with a written statement of the reasons for the dismissal. During termination of a contract, a gratuity pay of not less than 15 days per year is mandatory.
The new act actually provides for better job security to the workers. It also provides for better remedies in the event that the employer is oppressive or rather reneges against the contract.
Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, Kenya and the United States will explore a viable medium to long-term approach to their trade relations in the context of the wider agenda for the U.S. trade and development policy for Africa. In virtual talks led by Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development Cabinet Secretary Betty Minor and Ambassador Catherine Tai, the U.S. trade representative, the two countries noted that trade partnerships support the development agenda, including creating jobs and promoting economic growth.
Kenya and the U.S. launched trade negotiations on 8th July 2020 and have so far conducted 2 rounds of discussions. The latest is a virtual discussion between the two countries led by Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development CS Betty Minor and Ambassador Catherine Tai, the U.S. trade representative. In view of the recent transition, the U.S. Ambassador Tai informed Kenya that she was reviewing the progress of the talks in alignment with the Biden-Harris administration stated priorities in response to COVID-19 articulated under the Build Back Better banner. During virtual talks, Ambassador Tai said the two countries will explore a viable medium to long-term approach to their future trade relations in the context of a wider agenda of the U.S. trade and development policy for Africa. She said the U.S. administration is keen to support increased contribution of developing countries to the global economy. The two officials underlined the need for Kenya and the U.S. to be guided by a robust trade policy that will promote the mutual interests of the majority of the Kenyan and American people. They said this will ensure that trade partnerships support the development agenda of the two countries, including creating jobs and promoting economic growth. Ambassador Tai urged Kenya to partner with the U.S. in developing this strategy and supporting the regional integration drive in Africa. Kenya, as a signatory of trade agreements such as the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, the East African Community, and the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, has underlined its commitment to negotiate trade agreements that will complete these and other existing multi-country trade agreements. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
The construction of the Thwake multi-purpose dam in the eastern Kenya is 48% complete, with the government estimating that phase 1 of the project would be commissioned by November next year. Now, phase 1 involves construction of a multi-purpose dam, and second phase entails a 20 megawatts hydroelectric station, and in phase 3, water infrastructure would be put in place to supply treated water to 1.3 million residents of Kitui, Machakos and Makueni counties. The last phase involves putting 40,000 hectares of land under irrigation. Here is Steve Miner with the details.
Imagine walking over 10 kilometers to fetch water for livestock and domestic use.
Hiyo maji mahali tunapata kwa kwenda hiyo kilomita, saa ingine tunakutana na hii mnyama inakaa kwa maji, crocodile.
But then the water you find is not fit for human consumption.
Tunasikianga tu maji za huyu mto ni chafu. Sisi hatujui kupima na tulikuwa tunatumia tu maji hayo yakiwa namna hiyo tu.
This is a story of the residents in parts of Kitui, Machakos and Makueni counties. To address this, the Thwake multi-purpose dam was initiated under the Strategic Water Storage Program in 2018.
Tutajenga bwawa hapa ya Thwake ambaye yataweka maji ambaye kwa kawaida ya mafuriko ambaye kawaida huwa yaenda kwa Indian Ocean.
Hii ni mradi ambaye ilikuwa ni ndoto katika sehemu hii ya Ukambani kwa sababu ya tatizo ya maji.
The project, which is jointly funded by the national government and the African Development Bank, is being implemented in 4 phases. Phase 1 involves construction of a multi-purpose dam, while phase 2 entails putting up a 20 megawatts hydroelectric station. Phase 3 involves laying water infrastructure to supply treated water to up to 1.3 million residents of Kitui, Machakos and Makueni counties, while phase 4 entails putting 40,000 hectares of land under irrigation.
Hiyo stima itasaidia kwa sababu kama stima itatoka hapa kwa wingi, hakuna mahali patakuwa hapana stima kwa area hii.
Phase 1 of the 82 billion shilling Thwake multi-purpose dam, which is 48% complete, is expected to be commissioned in 18 months.
Chanelizi kwa sasa yamekamilika. Mkondo wa kwanza huu ni kulipua na kutoa mawe na mchanga kwenye tunnel. Sasa tunaenda kwa mkondo wa pili wa kuweka simiti kwa tunnel yote ndio isaidie maji kuweza kupita kwa usalama.
The dam taps water from Athi River and Thwake River, rivers whose banks have for years been bursting, thereby endangering lives and destroying property of those living downstream.
Kwa ukubwa hizi ndizo tunnel kubwa kabisa Kenya. Hii ni kwa sababu tunatarajia kuwa na maji mingi sana inapitia hapa kwa sababu wa maji ya Thwake River na Athi River.
Hii maji yanatoka Thwake na Athi River. Hiyo confluence mahali hizo mito miwili zinakutana. Tunaweza tukahifadhi hiyo maji na sehemu hii ya Ukambani itakuwa imesaidika sana.
Construction of the dam has created direct jobs and also seen some businesses sprout in the area, creating wealth for the residents and also investors.
Hii kazi imenisaidia. Juu hii kazi ndio mimi kama Steven ndio mimi huwa nakula hii kazi. Yule mtoto wangu na bibi wangu wako kule nyumbani, mimi ndio huwa wanategemea.
Kabla nilikuwa sifanyi biashara, mtoto wangu alikuwa akienda shule, anafukuzwa, anakuja anakaa nyumbani. Lakini venye sasa nimeanza hii biashara, ninaona bado niko na makasoma. Ninaona bado ninaendelea. Mtoto wangu mwanzo anasoma Mbodi saa hii primary na anaendelea vizuri.
On completion, the Thwake multi-purpose dam is expected to offer up to 134 million liters of water daily for domestic use and put over 40,000 hectares of land in Makueni and Kitui counties under irrigation.
Buy Kenya, build Kenya, tunatumia local material.
tunatoa mchanga kwa Thwake River, tunatoa kokoto hapo yeah. Na pia tunaweka 11% ya contract ya wananchi.
Reporting for Channel 1 Business, my name is Steve Maina.
Now, a section of tea farmers in Kiambu County are calling on Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya to reconsider, or rather consider postponing, the elections he directed for tea factories managed by the Kenya Tea Development Agencies. The farmers say the travel restrictions and the latest COVID-19 containment measures imposed about 2 weeks ago could hamper the electoral process.
This is a red zone, and the restrictions for COVID are so tight. Even if you wanted to bring crowds of, I have already told you that we have 30,000 shareholders in this in this county. Those 30,000 cannot assemble in the different companies so that they can elect their leaders with the current COVID restrictions.
Tea factories are registered and owned by individual tea farmers in our respective areas. Some were as old as between 40 and 50 years, while the youngest is about 20 years.
Onto the corporate scene, the National Bank of Kenya has signed a partnership with AMRE Flying Doctors to provide an air evacuation and ground ambulance services for its customers in case of a medical emergency. The service entitles customers to unlimited evacuations and transfers from anywhere within Kenya or parts of Eastern African region.
Speaking during the launch of the service, National Bank's Manager Director Paul Russo said the lender is focusing on intricacies touching on customers and their businesses by striking strategic partnership to unlock more value for Kenyans.
We are providing them with unlimited air evacuation and ground ambulance services in case they are in a medical emergency anywhere in the country.
He says the new services augments existing offering for health insurance and is anchored on the lender's desire to deliver added value to customers.
This partnership is going to serve our communities in a big way and more focused on their health matters and livelihoods. I think one of the things we've learned during this pandemic is that there's need for us to focus a lot more on our health and plan a lot better around our health systems.
The service grants National Bank of Kenya's customers direct access to the AMRE Flying Doctor 24-hour control center for medical advice. Finally, two senior managers have left Telkom Kenya in what is attributed to a new strategy employed by Telkom. Steve Okeyo has left his role as the managing director in charge of consumer service delivery unit after 2 years, while Chris Senanu, who has served the firm for close to 5 years, has left the managing director in charge of digital service delivery unit. Group CEO Mugo Kibatu says Okeyo's and Senanu's extensive management and industry experience have been fundamental in steering their respective units through Telkom's ongoing transformation. Kibati says Telkom Kenya is focusing on fiber infrastructure, vast GSM network, and digital financial services platform in its new strategic transformation. Terry Njenga, Channel 1 Business.
Now, COVID-19 wiped out 80% of earnings in the tourism industry last year's travel restrictions by key tourist source markets depressed arrivals. Coronavirus has persisted with the third and or fourth waves, compelling countries to reimpose travel restrictions. Our reporter Alan Naoko spoke to the Kenya Association of Hotel Keepers CEO Mike Masharia on how hoteliers and the tourism industry at large are navigating these restrictions.
The implosion of the hotelier sector, the industry has seen big losses, and on March 26th we also saw another lockdown which is crippling the sector. We need now to talk about what's the way forward and how they are doing at this time when businesses are trying to pick up from where they left off. And joining me to speak about this is Mike Mashare, who is the CEO of the Kenya Association of Hotel Keepers and Caterers. Karibu sana.
Good to be here once again.
Asante sana. And my name is Alan Naoko, taking you through this interview. Do enjoy and, of course, comment on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1, where you'd like to know which areas we can talk about also in the future. And so just getting into the conversation, the locked zones, how have the businesses there been affected? From your clients, of course.
Aoko, the zone that you're talking about takes about 20% of the Kenyan population and probably contributes around 80% of the GDP. So it's a very important zone. The thing is, in tourism, when you lock down one area, it affects places that are also outside that zone. A good example is we are just coming from the Easter holiday, and you realize that since people could not move from this zone to a place like Mombasa or Diani or Kilifi or even Mount Kenya region and even the western side, you'll find that the numbers there were very, very low. I was looking at the coast numbers over the Easter weekend, and there is no hotel that did more than 8% occupancy, 0.8. That's a disaster in our industry. So it's not just about the zone itself, it's whether you're able to move people from outside this zone into the places that domestic tourists favor. And you know, with the exception, within that zone, the only two places that would probably benefit from domestic tourists is Naivasha, which is part of Nakuru County, and probably a bit of Kajiado County, because we have Amboseli, we have the likes of Kitengela and so on within that zone. The rest of the places, we don't see too much domestic tourism getting into Kiambu County and so on and so forth. So it's been a very, very tough time. But we are talking to government. We are trying to find ways of mitigating the effects of COVID-19. We know, we understand. It's a delicate balance. We had already said it right from the outset last year, that it's a delicate balance between health and the economy. And we know that. But we also played our part with the protocols that we put together last year. You remember we were talking with you, I think, on the program, and I was saying we had created what is known as a safe zone, where you have a safe airport, safe railway station, safe transport, and safe hotels. So we were calling it a virtual safe zone. And as industry, we invested a lot of money to create that zone. So we would have thought that even as a new spike was coming up, the protocols that we had put in place would have been taken into consideration.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of mitigation measures, of course, we've seen also some stakeholders lobbying the government and asking why not give the businesses, the ones that are affected in these zones, some kind of relief. But then on the other side of the government, it came out that there may be a challenge because you can't just give relief to one zone and leave the rest of the country without relief. What do you think about that kind of a setup? Would you advocate for such kind of a relief?
People need to understand, first of all, that that government stimulus packages would be targeted either to an industry or to a population. It's very difficult for government to give a stimulus package for this zone and then leave out Kisimu, for example, which, as I had said earlier, is affected by the lack of business from this zone. So you see, it's very, very difficult. What we would like government to do, if looking at stimulus, is that this lockdown of this zone actually puts us in the position we were in last year. It's exact same position because you cannot move in and out of Nairobi. And most of the tourism activities originate from Nairobi because that's where the main international airport is. And that's where most of the money in terms of GDP is realized. So locking Nairobi alone has a ripple effect on all the others. So what probably would have worked would have been some stimulus package designed more or less in similar lines as we did last year, because those packages that were given by government really helped. They really helped cushion a lot of things. I'll give you an example. The moratorium on loans and the reduction of the central bank rate and the cash reserve ratio gave us as industry access to 34 billion shillings, and we utilized it very quickly. And we utilized it to pay our staff salaries, extend the duration of the loans that we had borrowed, and it also enabled us as businesses to continue borrowing to pay staff. So some of those stimulus packages should have been thought about. The reduction of PAYE was very big because it put 5% more money into the pocket of every employee. At a time when we were reducing salaries, then they got a cushion of 5%. So a technical increase of 5% on their net pay. So instead of thinking about a stimulus package for that particular zone, let's just think about a stimulus package for everyone, because you'll recall again we said 25% of our revenue goes to the value chain. And I'm sure you've started seeing farmers complaining, especially the small-scale farmers who sell to our industry, the mama mboga, the supplier of juice to the restaurants, the supplier of Coca-Cola, who is a manufacturer. You'll find that if you just do a zonal stimulus, you will leave out a lot of people who actually need to be cushioned over this period of time. So we don't advocate for a targeted package. We advocate for a full package that will take care of all employees and all the businesses in the country.
Users are still waiting for this kind of mitigation. Is there something like a stopgap measure that one can deploy in their business at this time? How your members can actually survive as they await? Because many of these things are things of policy and regulation, and they take a bit of time. Perhaps if, let's say, we do not know when this is going to end, what can they actually do with what they have at this time? Do they diversify their revenue stream somehow, or how do they mitigate?
At the moment, it's very difficult because, you see, the spike in numbers. How do you react to a spike in COVID numbers? You react by reducing activities. You react by urging people to limit their movements. And tourism is a business that is very much about movement, from one place to the other. Whether it's from your home to the restaurant, whether it's from your home to a holiday destination, whether you're going on business, it's all about movement. So what we are hoping for is that we would get a sort of a roadmap from government that tells us should these numbers come down to a certain extent, then we will be able to reopen certain parts of your business with protocols. Would have expected government to allow us to continue operating, even the restaurants, for example, and the hotels. Probably limit the sale of alcohol, for example. Yeah, but if you're going to continue selling food, but observe the protocols. So we are hoping that the open-ended announcement by His Excellency will be reviewed. When he was inspecting development projects the other day, he seemed to imply a 30-day period. I remember him saying that let's see what happens within these 30 days. That would give you at least some predictability, and you would know that the clients that are waiting, because again, tourism is a game of planning. So if somebody is coming from Switzerland, for example, they'll have planned way in advance. They book their flights, they book their accommodation, and they know they're coming. So if you say we review after 30 days or before the migration in June or July, then people can plan themselves. And once they plan themselves, what we do is we speak to our customers and tell them, pay us some deposits. Then once we have these deposits, the deposits then can be utilized to clear your bills. Say you have power bills, you have water bills, you have salaries, you have suppliers to pay. So as long as we have a roadmap, we could always go back to our customers and tell them, pay us some bit as you wait to come, and then we can utilize that as cash flow. The other thing that maybe we would want to do is pick up the conversation we had last year with the central bank and see whether we can have an extension of the loan moratorium so that we can be able to extend our credit lines and also speak to Treasury and see whether they can be able to bring in some of those stimulus packages that they brought in last year.
We've seen other hoteliers in other countries, even more things like vaccine passports for visitors. Is that something you'd even look into to allow some kind of vaccine passports, that this one is clean, they've been vaccinated, they are welcome?
We are working as private sector to have what is known as a COVID monitoring mobile app, because everybody has a mobile app. You might not be having opportunities to have that passport in remote places like Turkana, for example, but you may be having a mobile phone. So if you have an app that has what you call a vaccine certificate that is verifiable, the same way we are doing with a PCR test, we have a digital scanned code that you can put on your phone and you can use it anywhere. So we are trying to develop that with some of our partners in Germany through GIZ. We had suggested to government that hospitality workers should be part of the essential workforce that would be vaccinated under phase 1 of the vaccination program. But once government looked at the priorities, of course, we have health workers, we have teachers, we have security, the police, the army, and so on. So we landed at phase 2, which is not very bad. But we still have an opportunity to come into phase 1 because the vaccine, as you know, has had a bit of challenges in terms of uptake. Initially, before we dropped the age from 60 to 58, the uptake was very slow. And what we were telling to government is that why don't we vaccinate the ones who are willing to be vaccinated? And in our industry, a lot of people are willing to be vaccinated. Use us as leaders in the industry and in the private sector to show that we are not scared of the vaccine. If you brought somebody here to vaccinate me now, I'd happily take it, even though I'm not yet in that bracket. I would happily take it so that we can create confidence in the vaccine. Once you create confidence in the vaccine, create confidence in the people, roll it out together with the protocols, you'll start seeing the curve go down. Because the last time we brought down the curve by just protocols, lockdown and protocols, and we reopened. And even when we reopened, we still had a second peak, I think around November, that still came down without the intervention of a vaccine. Now we have a vaccine. You remember the CS Health saying this is like, it's equivalent to having a machine gun when you're going to war, when you didn't have one before. So it's a very, very important thing that we should look at rolling out. And hopefully government can give us an ear and accept that hospitality workers and tourism workers should be brought into phase 1 and we roll it out.
Okay. As we still circumnavigate around digital disruptions and digital applications, let's talk a bit about some disruptors in your sector. Let's talk about Airbnb. Of course, for the viewers that do not know what Airbnb is, it's a mobile-based application where you can actually pre-book living space for a period of time for one or more people online, and then when you get there, it's a fully furnished house, or you can actually customize where you stay from your home a click away. How has this kind of disruption, shaken?
It's not a real disruption. Let me give you an example of taxis. Taxis existed way before Uber. In fact, in Kenya, we had one innovative gentleman who started a taxi company known as Dial Cab. I don't know whether you remember that. It was in the mid to late 90s. And Dial Cab was just Uber. You were using your phone, you're being picked up by a driver who is designated and known, and it was safe. So the only thing that changed is that instead of now picking a phone like this and dialing, then you would put it on the app. The issue of homestays and private villas has always been there around the world. Think about 2003. Time magazine ran a very big article known as a virtual tourist, where I would connect with you in another country, and I would come and stay at your home, and then I would pay a bit of the running cost of that home and then leave within a short time. So what has happened is that Airbnb as an app has simply taken over a function that was already existing. Now, the bigger question has always been, how do you regulate? Because the tourism business operates on very strict standards. How do you regulate that you're getting the right standard of room? How do you regulate that you're getting the right standard of security where you're staying? And how do you ensure that the people in this business are paying taxes like everybody else? Those are the questions that were being asked. And these are the questions that the regulator has been able to answer. So that now the owners of these apps and everything can be brought on into the tax bracket and can also contribute to the development of the country, just like everybody else. Now, what it has done is that it has taken a bit of share of your mainstream hotels, facilities. It has taken a bit of a share of that. But on the flip side, it has also created demand in a space where none existed. So if I wanted to visit Nanyuki, for example, in the old days, and the only available hotel was a 5-star hotel, charging me 10 to 12,000 shillings a night, and I have a family of 5, so I have 3 rooms, paying 15,000, I would get discouraged.
What about a kind of a hybrid kind of a system where you find some of these homestays, are they allowed? Is it possible for them to join your organization? Because we've also seen some of your members offering hybrid services where they have the mainstream offering and then they have a little on the side, some kind of homestay kind of thing. Is it possible to coexist in that manner?
I think 4 or 5 years ago, Hilton International started an Airbnb unit, in certain markets, particularly the Asian markets where the uptake of Airbnb was very high. If you go to a place like Australia and Tasmania, for example, the tourism that is usually regarded as the lower end tourism, the backpackers and so on, is a $1 billion industry. It has actually boosted the economy of Tasmania. It's worth about 150 to 200 billion Australian dollars. So when you look at some of these issues as a country, from a strategic point of view, and don't think about them as disruptors, then you can encourage and make sure that that people visit your industry, your places, and they spend on the local economy. I'll give you an example. In Mombasa, there's an investor who decided to invest in Wild Waters. It was not a hotel. It was just an amusement park mainly for children. But you found that adults were also engaging in some of those fun activities. What did that do to the local industry? Hotels, both hotels and restaurants. It brought in traffic. So if you look at the general grand scheme of the Mombasa County, that is something that is good for them. So when you look at Airbnbs and looking at hybrid, there are some people who may never wish to stay in an Airbnb. Yeah. There are some people who come to Malindi and book the entire hotel. You remember Naomi, is it Naomi Campbell, being appointed as an ambassador recently by C.S. Balala. She would come and take up a full facility, a spa, because that's her style, that's her kind of product that she would like. So I would not expect somebody of that caliber who looks for spa tourism to be staying in an Airbnb. So there is really no threat that Naomi Campbell will be taken away by the local Airbnb in Kilifi. So what we need to do is just make sure that we have enough product offering for the people that we are targeting. We do about 1.2 million tourists a year when we are doing well. I have always maintained that's a very small number. We have the potential to go to about 3 to 4 million of those mainstream tourists, and probably attract the other end through Airbnb and hit another 2 to 3 million. So for the country, that's 6 million tourists, 6 million people who are spending. They are eating the same meat that is being eaten at a 5-star hotel because it comes from the local agricultural sector.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mike Macharia. Of course, as you said earlier, there is no simple trade-off between the economy and health matters. But of course, the takeaway from this is that we can still also leverage on technology to, advance some continuity in our businesses. Of course, if you like this topic, come and converse with us still at KBC Channel 1 on all our social media platforms. We have been speaking with Mike Macharia, who is the CEO of Kenya Association of Hotel Keepers and Caterers. And my name is Alan Auko. Whatever you do, keep it safe. Good night.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii lazima nishike kwa simu yako, bonyeza *811*962 hash. Lazima nishike mapema. Nisiposhika hii simu mapema utakasirika. Acha mimi nijua mtu ya marathon na niko na experience kabisa, niko na experience. If you don't hurry, you will not break the record. Okay, acha nishike hii simu. Ili kupata skiza tune hii bonyeza *811*962 hash, *811*962 hash. Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickbin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitazama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353, 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye Quickbin ni bila bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini. Next on kitu.
Naona kidogo kidogo.
Basi hata huyo mimi alisema vivyo hivyo. Alafu akanifanya hivi. Akamuuliza tena. Waona bebi.
Bebe mtaona vipi ona mpiga macho hivi?
Basi hata huyo mimi hata nimjibu hivyo. Wewe ni mtajibu wewe. Hebu chapa na mjadi kuna wenyewe. Yasikione. Huku kuna wenyewe. Saa saba ni saa 5 mpaka saa 6 unusu. Umesikia? Mzee nitapenda hizo.
You're still watching a Business Insider right here on KBC Channel 1, and thank you very much those who are watching on Stream Live, Prince, Tabi, Sheena and Andrew who are watching live from Switzerland, as well as Jackson Kehara who is watching from right here in Nairobi. Remember that we are live and we welcome your feedback. You can reach out to me on my official Twitter handle at Manyara, and our official station handle is KBC Channel 1 News. Now, looking at stories that are making headlines across the globe is that the head of the World Bank, David Malpass, has warned the world leaders against setting a global minimum tax rate for companies that is too high. Malpass says that he did not want to see new rules that would hinder poor countries' ability to attract investment. He says 21% of global minimum tax rate proposed by the U.S. is high. Now, details of this and other stories from across the globe.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says a global minimum tax on companies is necessary to stop a 30-year race to the bottom, which has seen countries slash rates on companies in an effort to woo business investments. Yellen is in favor of having all countries agree to a minimum tax rate of 21%. The U.S. is seeking to increase its minimum tax rate to 28%. For U.S. lawmakers, Yellen has made the case that establishing a global minimum tax would then allow U.S. to remain competitive despite that increase. The UK is also looking to raise taxes on corporations from 19% to 25% in 2023, in what will be the first increase since the 1970s. Earlier, talks led by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, had focused on a minimum corporate rate of 12.5%. Meanwhile, Beijing is now home to more billionaires than any other city in the world, according to the latest Forbes annual rich list. The Chinese capital added 33 billionaires last year and now hosts 100, according to the Business magazine. This narrowly beats New York City, which hosts 99 and has held the top ranking for the last 7 years. China's quick containment of COVID-19, the rise of its technology firms, and stock markets helped it gain the top spot. Although Beijing has now more billionaires than the Big Apple, the combined net worth of New York City's billionaires remained $80 billion, greater than that of their counterparts in Beijing. Finally, the latest numbers on commercial flights show that 9 out of 10 remaining grounded during the coronavirus pandemic. The International Air Traffic Association, IATA, says that if anything, the situation was getting worse. The new head of the global airline industry body, Willie Walsh, said international traffic was down almost 89% in February 2021 compared to February 2019, the most recent year without major disruptions caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Walsh said that there are no immediate indications of a potential recovery in the first 2 months of 2021, with restrictions being reimposed in parts of the world as a third wave gathers pace.
Now back to the local scene and focusing on those stories that are making headlines in the counties. That a family in Nairobi is seeking that 29-year-old kin who reportedly went missing last week. Nurdin Isaac Nur, who is said to be mentally challenged, was last seen at Diamond Park Apartments within Nairobi's South B estate. This and more from across the counties.
Nurdin Isaac Nur, second born in a family of 8, is reported to have been ailing mentally for 15 years. According to Hasbo Isaac Nur, his sister, Nurdin jumped over the fence where they were sleeping that morning.
Tunamjaribu kumtafuta brother yetu anaitwa Nurdin Isaac Nur, alipotea on Saturday morning 6. Alikuwa ameruka kwa fence. So mwenye atamuona anaweza biga namba 4 kwa pandani. So tunaishi so B, ako miaka 29 years old.
The 29-year-old is said to be tall, slender, and of light complexion, and understands Swahili, English, and Somali. Nurdin was last seen in a light blue shirt and pants with no shoes. Meanwhile, the rate of premature births across Makueni County has risen significantly for the past 3 years in a row, with health workers now calling for urgent mitigation measures to address the issue. According to the Makueni Director of Medical Services, Stephen Ndolo, the county experienced a sharp rise in preterm babies last year, with most cases attributed to teenage pregnancy.
This trend then means that we need to sensitize the communities on the causes and the prevention of prematurity.
Separately, Kenya Union of Commercial Food and Allied Workers has called on the national government to intervene over the effects of COVID-19 and lockdown on workers. The union national chairman Abdullahi Kiptanui said workers are suffering in silence owing to massive loss of jobs.
Mimi nasikitika sana kwa sababu unakuta mahoteli zinafungwa, unakuta supermarket zingine zinafungwa, unakuta viwanda vinafungwa.
Finally, in Turkana County, health officers are collaborating with security officers in a bid to curb the spread of COVID-19, have begun an inspection exercise in Lodwar to confirm the necessary COVID-19 protection measures are being practiced.
We launched a campaign to ensure that the implementation of the recent presidential directives on COVID-19 are adhered to.
Wamboyo Tende for Channel 1 News.
Now matters sports. The Ministry of Sports is targeting to vaccinate approximately 3,500 sportsmen and women, as well as sports administrators countrywide against the COVID-19 virus. Now, the Ministry of Health has set aside 3,500 COVID-19 vaccines in the first phase of the exercise.
Sports Cabinet Secretary Dr. Amina Mohamed said they were targeting to vaccinate about 600 people on Thursday and a further 500 on Friday, as they target to reach all sportsmen and women, as well as sports administrators countrywide by the end of next week.
Trying to make sure that we cover all those that will be participating in qualifiers, who will be participating in the Olympics, in the World Under-20, in the Safari Rally, to just make sure that we're fully covered, because we don't want a situation where our athletes actually go to participate in qualifiers and are disqualified, not because they have failed to win a competition, but because they have failed a COVID test.
The CS reiterated that although priority will be given to Olympic Games-bound athletes and officials, other athletes and officials such as the World Under-20 Championship, World Safari Rally, the World Athletics Continental Tour and Rugby Bats Cup will also be vaccinated.
But this vaccine is being used across the world, and in the majority, the vast majority, 99.9% is successful. And so we just need to encourage everybody to do it, not just the athletes, not just the sportsmen and women, but just Kenyans from all genres of life to take the vaccine. Because we need to be safe, we need to protect our country, we need to protect our population, and it's really, really important.
The Ministry of Health has set aside 3,500 COVID-19 vaccines for sports people and administrators in the first phase of the exercise. The CS, however, said the sports will remain suspended countrywide as per the head of state's directive as discussions continue.
Now, for Europa League quarter-finals first leg ties are on the card tonight as 2017 champions Manchester United play away to Granada, while Arsenal hosts Slavia Prague. At the Emirates, Dutch champions Ajax will entertain Roma, while Dinamo Zagreb will face Villarreal.
Manchester United resumed their quest for Europa League success tonight when they face Granada in the first leg of their quarter-final battle at the Estadio Nuevo Los Cármenes. The Spanish surprise package dumped Molde out of the tournament to advance to the last 8, whereas Manchester United overcame AC Milan 2-1 on aggregate in the last 16. United, who are the tie favourites, will be without Anthony Martial and Eric Bailly, but have a boost with the return of Marcus Rashford. Neither Lozano, Queenie and Carlos never are the absentees of the host, while Luis Suarez is in contention. In London, Arsenal will endeavour to get back to winning ways when they welcome Slavia Praha at the Emirates for the first leg of their quarter-final clash. The Gunners scrapped a 3-2 aggregate victory over Olympiacos to book their spot in the last 8, while Slavia Praha knocked out Rangers in a tie that was overshadowed by controversy. Davis Lewis and Kieran Tierney have been ruled out for Arsenal. Bukayo Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe and Granit Xhaka are in contention. Arsenal are unbeaten in all European competitions against Czech opposition, winning 7 games and drawing only 1, skipping 7 clean sheets in 8 matches. In other matches set for tonight, Ajax will entertain Roma at the Johan Cruyff Arena, while Spanish side Villarreal will take on Dynamo Zagreb.
What can I say? May the best team win in that quarter-final first leg there for the Europa. I'm being reminded here by some concerned persons that I need to be rooting for Manchester United, that is going to be playing away to Granada, while Arsenal will be hosting Slavia Praha at the Emirates. Well, as I say, I try to be neutral in this matter, but a Gor Mahia fan, but all the best to the teams playing tonight, Manchester United included. Now, still keeping up with soccer is that European champions Bayern Munich will go off to a rough start, or rather got off to a rough start in their Champions League title defense after failing 3-2 to last year's finalist Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, in their first leg of the quarter-final tie at the Allianz Arena. Meanwhile, English side Chelsea seized control of their quarter-final, the first leg away to Seville, at 2-0 win over FC Porto.
Chelsea travelled to the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan in desperate need for a response to Saturday.
There were many moments where we suffered, but we accepted it. We could see that, yeah, it is the circumstances are a bit different if it's a quarter-final, if you play last 8 and so on. So in some moments it was a good game, in some moments we suffered and we lacked precision and stuff, but the spirit was good and the result is excellent result.
Saint-Germain striker Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting headed home to get Bayern back into the game. Thomas Muller would then Mbappe had the final say as he swept a low strike through Jerome Boateng's legs late on to give PSG that crucial away goal heading into the second leg next week. PSG.
Now, Inter Milan moved a step closer to ending Juventus' 9-year stranglehold of Serie 1 title by belating Sassuolo 2-1 to move 11 points clear at the top of the table. Juventus were also winners on the night, beating Napoli 2-1 with Cristiano Ronaldo and Paulo Dybala on target before Lorenzo Insigne scored a late penalty. Juventus moved to that place, 1 point behind AC Milan in second. In Spain, Real Sociedad moved up to 5th place after a 1-1 draw against Athletic Bilbao.
Marlon used all of his physique there just to knock Lukaku off his stride, but Inter keep possession. Once again, Young bounding forward. 4 to aim for in the middle. Lukaku's header! And it's him again. Inter lead inside 10 minutes. Romelu Lukaku once more on the score sheet. Lukaku, meanwhile, at the other end. Lautaro Martinez is free to his left if he can pick him out. Lautaro Martinez completes a perfect counter-attack. Hakimi's lost it. This is Raspadori. And now Juricic. He saw that Haraslim was in space. Still a chance. And they've got one back. Sassuolo strike.
Chiesa with a lovely turn. Gets around Hussein and tees it up for Cristiano Ronaldo. to show us that Juventus are still fighting. Rodrigo Bentancur, now Dybala! Oh, that is some comeback! It is Insigne, and there's no mistake.
Possibly will be able for next league game. Berenguer with a curling cross! There's the opening goal! Wonderful service, and it's the substitute.
Now, this year's French Open at Roland Garros has been postponed by 1 week and will now run from May 30th to June 13th. The French Tennis Federation is hoping that the current COVID-19 pandemic's restrictions in France will be relaxed by the end of May, enabling the tournament to be played in front of many spectators as possible in a safe environment. Now, the 2021 tournament is due to finish just 2 weeks before the start of Wimbledon, and the postponement is set to have an impact on ATP and WTA calendars, with the grassroots season scheduled to start on 7th June with tournaments in Den Bosch, Stuttgart and Nottingham. Last year, Rafael Nadal won the men's single title, while Polish teenager Iga Swiatek won her first Grand Slam title in front of 1,000 fans, which was the maximum permitted at the time. It's been quite a somber day today as the KBC fraternity and the media fraternity in general, as we mourn one of our very own. That is none other than the late Betty Barasa. We still implore the authorities to do their investigations and apprehend the perpetrators of that particular heinous act. And we continue praying for the family and especially her children and husband there as they deal with these difficult times. To each and every person who made time to watch Business Insight tonight, those who are watching locally and also internationally with Prince, Mary, Prince and Sheena there, as well as Andrew, who are watching live from Switzerland. Thank you very much for making time, as well as Jackson Kihara, who has been keeping us company all the way from 9 o'clock to now. I wish you a great viewing ahead, and especially those who are still watching the Europa quarterfinals there, Arsenal fans as well as Manchester United fans there alike. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a great evening ahead. Just to remind you, responsibility begins with you, and as far as COVID-19 transmission is concerned. So kindly mask up, wash your hands thoroughly using sanitizer, and keep social distance. My sign language interpreter has been none other than Lucy Maura there. Have a blessed evening.
Welcome to Channel 1 Weather Update. My name is Yusuf Farah. Tonight, rainfall is expected in most parts of the country, with temperatures dropping to 11 degrees Celsius in Kericho, making it the coldest. Tomorrow morning, we'll be waking up to light rains accompanied by sunny intervals and partly cloudy conditions in the capital city and its environs, areas of Meru and Nyeri. Showers accompanied by sunny intervals in the coastal region areas of Mombasa, Malindi, Kwale and Lamu. The northeastern region, chances of rain in the morning accompanied by sunny intervals and partly cloudy conditions, Partly cloudy conditions accompanied by sunny intervals in areas of Lodwar. In the afternoon, showers accompanied by thunderstorms in areas of Kitale, Kisumu, Kericho, Eldoret, Narok and Kakamega. Parts of the capital city are expected to have rains accompanied by sunny intervals and partly cloudy conditions. The coastal region, partly cloudy conditions and sunny intervals. The northeastern region, sunny intervals, chances of partly cloudy conditions with sunny intervals in areas of Manyara. As far as the temperatures are concerned, highs of 36, lows of 26 in Manyara, Garissa highs of 38, lows of 24, and Nairobi highs of 26 and lows of 16. That wraps up the local weather focus. Join me tomorrow, same time, same place, only on Channel 1. Until then, do have yourselves a lovely night.
Fahamu kuwa ni yako zamu, angalau ungeniambia eti unakamu, nitulize hamu wangu wa dhati. Hey, tama zangu zimenikwamia mikononi, labda huu ni mwisho wa dunia. Safiri salama, msalimu Maulana, tutaonana baadaye. Safiri salama, msalimu Maulana, tutaonana baadaye.
I think this is the best day at this point after almost 2 months after COVID.
It's been tough, Bana.
It's been tough.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Wow, you have made my day. Yeah, now they've started coming. Hey, what happened? Oh, Jackie's a lead. Everything is there.
Tutakesha tu hapo kwa veranda mambo
Kuna
sawa.
bonfire. Yeah.
Tutaonana baadaye.
Vera Beauty and Fashion College, with branches in Nairobi, Eldoret, Thika and Meru. Did you know that we are a TVET approved institution? We offer courses in fashion design, interior design and soft furnishing, event decoration, flower arrangement, event planning, hairdressing, barbering and dreadlocks, beauty therapy, makeup, nail technology, spa massages, teaching skills, TOT, solo business management, and many more. Register now and visit our website on www.verabeautycollege.com. You can also call on 0725-923-550 Nairobi branch, 0728-087-689 Eldoret branch, 0722-227428 Thika branch, 0725-000-706 Meru branch. Vera Beauty and Fashion College, a TVET approved institution. Jumapili hii kwenye runinga ya KBC, ungana naye Askofu Michael Wandevi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu kuanzia saa 1 hadi saa 2 asubuhi.
Ningetaka nikwambie, our Jehovah God, because the Bible says he is the same yesterday, today and forevermore. He is able to take you to a place of abundance. He is able to take you to Rehoboth in the name of Jesus Christ.
Kipindi ni neno la neema, ukiletewa naye Askofu Michael Wandevi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu. Usikose.
My trust is in you.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
As many as 50,000 runaway slaves called Maroons, an indigenous term, settled here on small rises of land known as Mesic Islands. Chris Lowy manages the Swamp's National Wildlife Refuge in Suffolk, Virginia.
When mercenaries came to your home and you were involved in several near-death experiences, take us back to that moment. How did you feel?
I wanted to die. I wanted to commit suicide. I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. I was so bad that, I wanted to die, but I was afraid to kill myself. I was afraid to do it, so I would do things to other people, expecting them to kill me.
In 2012, the government developed the section of paper number 8, which is a master plan on how the semi-arid as well as the arid land in this country was to be developed and accelerate economic development in these areas. And of course, this was critical, bearing in mind that they occupy almost 90% of the country's land mass. And the question is, 8 years down the line, what have we achieved with these documents? Joining us tonight on Inside Government is the Principal Secretary in charge of State Department for Arid and Semi-Arid Lands. This is Nika Pawan. The discussion that we're going to have tonight is, have we achieved what we set out to achieve in the year 2012? If yes, what is the way forward? And if no, what do we need to do to accelerate the rate of development in these regions? Thank you so very much indeed, Bonapias, for your time.
Thank you so much.
The semi-arids, as well as the arid lands in this country, for almost 90 years now, they have suffered huge marginalization. They were like left out when the rest of Kenya was being developed. Until 2008, when government said, hey, look here, we cannot afford to leave this part of Kenya in our development agenda. And that's when a lot of focus was given to these areas. And this culminated in the development of Session of Paper number 8 in 2012, which was launched in 2013. What have we achieved so far?
Okay, thank you so much, Kimani, for having you here today. The arid and semi-arid lands, the areas which were left behind for many years. So I'm talking about the Sessional Paper number 10 of 1965, which divided the country into the high and the low potential areas. And the arid, the ASALs, were considered as areas with low potential, and these made these areas to remain behind. But now with the Sessional Paper number 10 of Sessional Paper number 8, 2012, and the Constitution, the promulgation of the Constitution 2010, I can say now it's not like the way it used to be. So combined, we are having the devolution as well as the affirmative action which has been done by the national government towards developing these areas. you can see the areas which is receiving the highest amount of money from the National Treasury, especially when it comes to the resources that are going to the default unit, is one of the highest in the arid and semi-arid lands. So these are deliberate efforts by the government to ensure that these areas are developed. So what I can say with the promulgation of the Constitution 2010 and under the sessional paper number 8 of 2012, I think we have been able to achieve, especially now, like the ministry which we are in now, the Ministry of Devolution, Arid and Semi-Arid Lands, is whose mandate is to coordinate the issues that are affecting counties, as well as also coordinating the development of arid and semi-arid lands. To be specific, when I'm talking about the arid and semi-arid lands. So these were areas which were left behind, but with the new dispensation which the government is doing, is being accelerated. The development is being accelerated. A lot of resources has been going to the arid and semi-arid lands, and there are so many things that have happened in these areas, especially in terms of food security and also even health. You can see in Manyara we are having good hospitals. In Turkana we are having good hospitals, and many other places which have been left behind. And if I can say, if there are some areas which have really felt the fruits of devolution, is the ASALs, which we didn't have most of these activities. So the devolving of administration and resources, the devolution of resources, has really helped this area to develop in terms of roads, in terms of health, food security, and many other factors.
Very well.
Yes.
I mean, since devolution kicked in the year 2013, when you look at the amount of resources that has been plowed into ASA areas, I mean, you're talking about more than $500 billion Kenya shillings, you know. But yet, when you look at the rate of poverty, it is not commensurate, it's not dropping, at the same rate as the level of investment. Because, on average, I mean, the rate of poverty in ASA counties, varies from 65 to 90%. So, what is not happening? And actually, the other day, you were complaining about the same, that, the rate of investment in this area, I mean, the returns are not as high.
Okay, I totally agree with you, and sometimes disagree, because what is happening, we are having a lot of resources, she has said, trillions of money have been pumped into the arid and semi-arid lands, because that one has not been translated to commensurate the amount of resources that have been put. One of the key issues is, despite that we are having more success in the development of these areas, so there are some challenges, and one of the challenges is what you are talking about, which I can say one of the main challenges is which has made us as not to realize what you are talking about. It's not commensurate. It's because of disjointed efforts that are happening in the arid and semi-arid lands. We have many players, the government agencies who are operating in arid and semi-arid lands. We have the government agencies who are operating. We have the county governments. But the main problem sometimes there's a lot of disjointment. But what we are doing as a ministry, we are developing a coordination framework whereby we need to have that coordination framework so that we can be able to undertake resources jointly. And what has happened of late is this unified development, which is spearheaded by the government in this, specifically in these areas nationally, so that we can be able to coordinate. Like now, if you have the county commissioner who is in charge of the smaller unit of the default unit, that is the county, the counties, they are coordinating the developments that are coming from the national government. Coming home, that is in the arid and semi-arid lands state department, we have the National Drought Management Authority, which is in the 23, which we have offices across the 23 ASAL counties. We have the CSGs, whereby it's chaired is coordinated or called upon by my team in National Drought Management Authority who bring all the stakeholders who are operating in the counties also in issues of drought management so that we deliver as one. That is one of the examples that we are doing as a ministry and as government. So there are other efforts which we are trying to see how we can do it jointly. And at the moment we are developing partnership coordination framework so that we can deliver as one, so that we are not having disjointed efforts, because we are having so many players who are operating in the arid and semi-arid lands. We have development partners who are also operating in these areas. We have also government agencies and other non-state actors who are operating in these areas. How can we bring them together to deliver as one? So this is what we are working on, and we are hopeful by the end of this year that framework will be ready so that we can deliver as one, and so that the resources that goes to these arid and semi-arid lands areas will be commensurate to whatever the outcome that comes out of this will be commensurate to the amount of resources that go there.
Mm-hmm. You see, when you look at parties that are considered to be within the ASAL regions, I mean there are about 29 of them, and 18 of these are considered to be extremely poor. Do we have like what you would call a master plan on how you're going to pull out these counties, out of extreme poverty, by a certain time frame?
Okay, what we've done in 2018, we did a revision of the ASAL policy. 2, we developed our strategic plan for the arid and semi-arid lands. So we have developed a strategic plan specifically for the development of the arid and semi-arid lands. So there are so many factors that we are looking into the strategic plan that we developed between 2018 to 2022. We did develop that plan, which we are now implementing, and it has really addressed the issues and highlighted the issues that need to be looked into and to be implemented, starting from 1, food security, infrastructure, health, and many other into holistic development of the arid and semi-arid lands. So we have developed a plan. We have a roadmap to the development of these arid and semi-arid lands. And within the strategic plan, we have now unpacked to have each of every financial year, we have annual plans of implementation of the development of these arid and semi-arid lands. So this is what the government is very keen on looking into. And the government is really having a keen interest in the arid and semi-arid lands. You can see the kind of resources that are going there in the devolved units, the amount of money that is going there, as well as also the what is implemented by the national government. Also, our development partners have come in handy by investing in these areas. We have the Northeastern Development Initiative, the NEDI, which has really pumped in a lot of money in the development of these areas. And believe you me, Kimani, I think it's not this area is not like the way it used to be. I did mention earlier that the kind of hospitals, areas where we didn't have, they could not do even C-section. They are now doing it in the arid and semi-arid lands. They are also having so many development units, roads and been opened up, electricity, and many other things. So I think this is a fun to watch. There's a proverbial which says that the stone that the builders rejected turned out to be the cornerstone of the building. So this is the front where we are looking at. In future, the arid and semi-arid lands is going to be a huge front in this country. Let me just give you an example. It seems you are not believing some of these issues. The other day, we struck oil in Lodwar, in Turkana County, which is an arid and semi-arid lands, which is a
2012.
Yes. Yeah. So you see, this is amount of this is the goal that we this deliberate government effort to develop these areas. So we have many other like minerals in the arid and semi-arid lands, and like you, 90% of our wildlife are in arid and semi-arid lands. And this is, you're talking about the 90% of the arid and semi-arid lands, the wildlife that you're having, is bringing a lot of money to this country. So it's a huge, it's actually the it will be the cornerstone of this country in future.
If you look at that development plan that was developed in the year 2012, I mean, a lot of emphasis was supposed to go towards starting or jump-starting irrigational schemes, you know, for local communities, because one of the biggest challenges that as our counties, you know, are facing is food insecurity and the low rainfall, you know, in these counties. But so far, when you look at these projects that were supposed to kick off, the most prominent is Pakera irrigation scheme in Turkana. There was also plans, you know, to harness renewable energy in these counties. The most visible one is the wind power project in Samburu County. What are we doing to ensure that we accelerate the rate of development in these areas?
I think we need to appreciate what has already been done. There is a singer who sang one time and said, "Count your blessings and name them one by one, and you'll be surprised what God has done for you." So I've talked about oil, which has been struck in Turkana. Now, you've already given me an example of the wind power, which is one of the biggest green energy we are having in Africa. So that is the one in Marsabit, but in Lake Turkana. Yeah, which is one of which is of its own kind in this in this country. You're talking about irrigation scheme. You mentioned the Pakera irrigation scheme is in Baringo. We have the Weiwei irrigation scheme in West Pokot. We have the Napu irrigation in Turkana. We have the Bura irrigation scheme, and many the Moya irrigation scheme, which is huge. And these are the kind of investment. That's why I was saying, let's count on what has already been done, and where are we, and where we are.
What has been done. This is very important.
Yes.
Also to remember what has not been done.
Yes. So I just want to start from what has been done, from the positive aspect, before you go to see the challenges. So you know what I mean is you're taking the amount of rice that is now being produced from the Moya irrigation scheme is a lot. Pakera irrigation scheme, they are now producing a lot of seed, and this is where we are having our seed because of many issues like isolation, and this is where you can produce clean seed and certified seed that is being used by our farmers, which is building towards food security. There are many other irrigation schemes, and I mentioned the Bura irrigation scheme. Yes, Kalana Gulalo is on the track. Tomorrow we are having a team of PSS. We are going down there to actually see how this thing can be unlocked, and we will have an irrigation of about 10,000 acres. So you cannot say that we haven't done much, but we've done a lot. But in everything, there are some challenges which are here and there. So these are some of the issues we want to tackle. Like what I was saying, that we are having a team of PSS. So we will be going to see how Kalana Gulalo is faring on. What are the challenges that we need to unlock. And Nakir Kimani, this is an area where we can easily win. It's not only that, and there are many other irrigation schemes which are upcoming. These are large scale, but also there are small irrigation schemes like what is implemented by the Minister of Water and Sanitation under the National Irrigation Authority. They are doing the household water tanks, which is 1 million liters per household. This one can be enough to sustain a family in terms of food security in that family. So this one has a big multiplier effect because they have done a lot of household water tanks, which is cutting across the arid and semi-arid lands. And the government this year has put a lot of budget on this irrigation to expand, and also in terms of having big mega irrigation schemes, as well as having the micro, because as we do macro, we also need to invest in the macro issues, like having small irrigation schemes under gravitational, as well as the household water tanks, which is really turning around the food security in arid and semi-arid lands?
I mean, it's only last year when, these areas, are going through a serious drought. And, a lot of efforts, are done by both the county governments as well as the national government to feed these people. And the question that keeps on recurring is, how fast do we plan to make these counties, as our counties, food sufficient?
Okay, the State Department of Arid and Semi-Arid Lands was established to spearhead and coordinate the development of resilience in the arid and semi-arid lands. Because I totally agree with you that giving out of relief food, cash transfers that is happening may not be a solution at the end of the day. This is a short term, but the long term is creating resilience in these arid and semi-arid lands, which we are doing as government to ensure that as much as we are doing the short-term measures, we are also addressing the issue of resilience. I've mentioned about the improvement of the irrigation schemes that are there, renovation and bringing them up to speed to ensure that we have the irrigation coming back. And then number two, the household water plants, which is being spearheaded by the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, so that we have at least at the smallest unit we are having resilience, because once you develop resilience in a family, you are developing resilience in the nation. So we may not be able to achieve this overnight. So it's a long term in developing several agricultural value chains. To this I mean the crops and the livestock as well, in the sense that now in the livestock sector, improving the breeds that are there in partnership between the national and the county government and other non-state actors who we are working together, so that because this thing you cannot deliver alone, you need to have other players who are on board, so that we develop the value chain. If it's livestock, you develop the whole value chain so that the farmers can be able to have a market for their livestock, which is the mainstay. Actually, I did mention that the mainstay of the arid and semi-arid lands is livestock. Mm-hmm. So this is a sector also we are developing to ensure that the chains, the value chains on the livestock, be it the cows, be it the sheep, be it goats and camels, is developed along the whole value chain, so that the farmers can be able to be resilient. Mm-hmm.
Yes. When you look at the ASA counties, the ASA region in this country, is almost 90% reliant on livestock, or what you call livestock farming. And in Kenya, about 74% of the national livestock herd, is found in these counties. Don't you think it is absolutely unfortunate that we do not even have a single national abattoir where, farmers can deliver their livestock, and, it is processed and sold to the outlying communities or to the international community?
Okay, when it comes to the development of the value chain, I agree with you that most of the livestock that we are having in this country are in arid and semi-arid lands. Two, in the development of the value chain, it doesn't mean that it's only the government who can provide the market. We also have the private sector. There are so many private abattoirs who are actually doing a lot of business, livestock business. And I just want to put the point right. It's not the government who does business. Government provides the enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. So we want to ask government to catalyze the private sector so that they can be able to do the abattoirs. And what has happened of late is we are having private development partners who are working on the development of the value chain, starting from the farm all the way to the abattoirs. And the best way is to have this kind of private taking the lead, because it's creating employment. As the government provides the enabling environment, so the government will just come up with a backup having a national abattoir. And this will be coming in the due course, so that we will ensure that it will be part of the market for the livestock from the arid and semi-arid lands. But we would like to encourage as government, this development partner, not development partners, but private developers can come up with the abattoirs, so that they can be able to run and bring up our economy, especially in the arid and semi-arid lands.
The whole plan was also to have the Kenya Meat Commission, opening satellite branches in some of these counties. We know it has been having financial challenges as well as the marketing challenges. Are you working with the Ministry of Agriculture to ensure that the revival of the Kenya Meat Commission is accelerated to serve this community?
Yes, it is being done, and the Minister of Livestock also is working on the Kenya Meat Commission to revive it. But as I was telling you, what we want to do as government is to catalyze and provide the enabling environment, so that the government does not do business. The business is done by the private partners, private Kenyans or investors who can be able to do the job much better in terms of being efficient. Yeah, and they can be, because if you are talking about Kenya Meat Commission, it is only maybe Nairobi, but we have the rest part of the whole part of the country, and government cannot be able to do that. We call upon the private sector to invest in these areas in terms of abattoir. We are also having some counties who are coming up with the abattoirs. They are developing under the economic stimulus package, which was done by the government, to construct abattoirs in the arid and semi-arid lands. So this one has been handed over to the county government, so that they can be able to run it. So we have some examples of them which we have handed over as national government to the county government for them to run. Yeah.
And also the plans to establish, disease-free zones. And I know that, the accelerated plans, to have one in Tana River County. Do we have others, that are in the pipeline? And what is the progress so far in regard to the development of a disease-free zone in Tana River County?
Okay, this is being done in the Ministry of Livestock. Mm-hmm. And I can say this is something that is feasible, especially when you're talking about disease-free zone. You need isolation from where you may be having so many animals, and so you need to isolate the animals to be in a place where they are the disease prevalence is a bit low. So the ideal area to do and take these disease-free zones is in the arid and semi-arid lands, because land is not an issue in this place. You have the isolation distance, and this is something that we are going to achieve as government, not only in Tana River but in many other places. We can also have the private sector also helping in undertaking the management of the disease-free zones. Yeah, you see, under the guidance of the technical experts who can be able to undertake this.
But there are arguments that, when you talk about livestock in this country, it is ASA areas, that contribute a significant portion, of the entire country's, livestock at almost 70%. Do you think it is right, or it is high time, that we have the livestock department or docket being placed under ASA, or you match the two, so that for easier coordination and for expedited development of projects?
Okay, good question. What we are doing is, as government, we are delivering as one. So whatever is being done here, the State Department of Development of ASAL, we are basically doing coordination, because it's the State Department of Coordination of Development of Arid and Semi-Arid Lands. The implementation is done by the line ministries. If it is a livestock issue, it's done by the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. If it is a water issue affecting the arid and semi-arid lands, it's done by the Ministry of Water. If it is a health issue, it's done by health. So what we are doing is that coordination, so that we deliver as one. Yeah, so that we with this a certain ministry, we are delivering whatever we are undertaking is we are delivering as one. So as much as is housed there, whatever we are doing is done as one. Yes.
You know, even before coronavirus, which has really impacted, you know, the development and the livelihoods in these countries, you know, there were, the ASA regions were having challenges of low-cost innovation. They were having challenges of growth. How has coronavirus complicated an already dire situation?
Well, I can say we've had challenges. Not only what you have mentioned locust, you've mentioned drought. We also have the floods that has been hitting the arid and semi-arid lands. So with the complication of the coming in of coronavirus, which is not unique to this country alone, it's a global challenge. So it's having also an impact because there are so many people who have been there's some people who have been doing business all over. Now movement was a bit restricted. Now it has been opened. So I think I cannot say that there was no challenge. We had this challenge in arid and semi-arid lands. You see, in some counties, markets were closed, and the livelihood of these people is livestock. So when they closed the markets, they were not able to sell their animals. So the economic state of these people in the arid and semi-arid lands was affected in one way or another. So it has had a huge impact. Mm-hmm. As a ministry in charge of devolution, arid and semi-arid lands, I think if there is something that has really turned around this country, is devolution. I wish we even started with devolution, we would be very far. But better late than never. We give ourselves the next 10 years, we will be very far.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you so very much indeed, Bonapius, for your time.
Thank you.
Very good. I appreciate it. Mr. Pawan is the Principal Secretary in the State Department of Arid and Semi-Arid Lands, joining us here on Inside Government to enumerate to us some of the development projects undertaking or the ministry is undertaking to ensure ASA regions moves together with the rest of Kenya. Thank you so very much. You have been watching Inside the Government. My name is O'Brien Kimani. The duties are going on Thursday next week. Thank you for your time. Bye for now.